Now clearly Christopher Reeve never really went to the moon, but it's a fun example of the magic of the movies. Ever since the beginning of cinema, filmmakers have created settings in the most unexpected of places in order to tell a story. For example, Paris of the Phantom of the Opera, Rick's Bar from Casablanca, and London of Mary Poppins were all created in Hollywood. The Russian Winter of Dr. Zhivago was created in Spain during the summer. The Philippines stood in as Vietnam in Apocalypse Now. Time and time again, settings have been created for the camera using studio sound stages and alternative locations, doubling for somewhere else. This could be due to budget or other logistical factors. For me, one of the most fascinating of cinema's scenic tricks is the use of the United Kingdom throughout the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. Although all 4 of the films and Supergirl were set largely in the USA, they were filmed mostly in the UK, with English sound stages and locations doubling for American locales. And while the USA was an unlikely match with the UK of the 1970s and 80s, the on-screen results were largely successful in Superman 1-3 and Supergirl. However, while Superman 4 also made extensive use of UK locations to fill in for the US, the results in the 4th entry to the series were much less successful. This was due mostly to the unusual limited budget of the sequel, which required that creative solutions to be found regarding the production design, not all of which were ideal. But how much did this impact the overall film?
And take after take after take, the English extras would be terribly polite.
Yeah.
We just couldn't get it.
So the whole film's a disaster.
No.
On Superman the movie, the production filmed at various international locations, including Alberta in Canada, which doubled for Smallville, and of course New York stood in for the fictional city of Metropolis. Additional US set location filming took place in Gallup, New Mexico, while British Columbia played the part of an Arctic ice field and the scene of a missile convoy. However, nearly all of the film's interior sequences were constructed at Shepperton and Pinewood Studios in England. Many notable exteriors were filmed there too, including the Hotel Vandeleur and the prison, as well as a San Francisco street that is only featured in the extended cut of the film. For Superman 2, location filming took Superman to Paris, Niagara Falls, Norway and St. Lucia. However, a vast amount of the film was shot at Pinewood, including the enormous Metropolis Street set, and the East Houston, Idaho location was constructed from scratch on Cobham Common, Surrey. They also integrated background plates of New York for the big battle. No main unit photography took place in the USA. For Superman 3, much of the film was photographed on location in Alberta, Canada, doubling for both Smallville and the close-by city of Calgary as Metropolis. Background plates, stills for visual effects and establishing shots were filmed in the USA. Efficient and economical, this meant that the principal cast was based between Alberta and Pinewood, with no main unit filming being undertaken in the USA. The backlot of Pinewood Studios became the junkyard setting for Superman's duel against himself. All other interiors were filmed at Pinewood. For Supergirl the movie, the decision was made for all of the main unit filming to be undertaken in the United Kingdom. The entire film was mostly shot on the enormous backlot set at Pinewood, as well as controlled sound stages at the studio. Locations in Scotland, Black Park, and the Royal Masonic School for Girls filled in the gaps. Only the film's aerial unit filmed stateside. The Salkinds and Pierre Spengler continued this model for Santa Claus the movie, in which portions of New York were recreated entirely on the Pinewood backlot, with creative use of real New York footage filmed by the aerial unit. The rights to the Superman franchise were then given to the producing duo of Golan Globus, who decided to make the next chapter of the Man of Steel saga via London Cannon Films. The plot of Superman 4: The Quest for Peace involved Superman ridding the world of nuclear weapons, while Lex Luthor creates a henchman called Nuclear Man to battle the Man of Steel. When Superman 4 went into production, it was decided that, as with Supergirl and Santa Claus, all main unit photography would be photographed in the UK, with a plan to shoot aerial and visual effects plates and stills of the film's American locations in the USA. The intention was to enhance the scenes shot in the UK with matte paintings, opticals and miniatures to broaden the skyscapes, as had been done in the previous Superman movies. Cannon had recently produced Death Wish 3 in the UK, taking advantage of the weak pound in 1985. The New York set film had large portions of it filmed at the site of an abandoned hospital in Lambeth, South London. Production designer Peter Mullins had adapted existing buildings and created new facades to allow the filmmakers to shoot as much as possible outside of the USA. These in-camera results were highly impressive. For Superman 4, the production designer chosen was the Oscar-nominated London Cannon Films veteran, John Graysmark. So for this latest Superman film, where this time would the man still be taking residence in the United Kingdom? Although originally based at Pinewood Studios, the production had moved here to Elstree Studios in Borehamwood, which had been recently acquired by the Cannon Group. Elstree was the regular base of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg throughout the 80s, and had housed the productions of everyone from Stanley Kubrick to Jim Henson. On the site of the state-of-the-art George Lucas stage is where the Great Wall of China and Red Square once stood. The Metropolis Street was constructed within the alleyway running to Stage 9, half of which no longer exists. The exploding building fronts were attached to the workshop buildings. The boys' school where Superman drops off Lenny Luthor was the Elstree Powerhouse. Over there is Elstree Studios as of today. Behind me is what remains of stages 1 to 6, where they shot the majority of Superman 4. Come 1991, the land was redeveloped and sold off to supermarket chain Tesco. A few years previously, Graysmark had successfully created a London street at the studio for Cannon's own film, Life Force. Many of the studio's interiors included the Russian space station, Clark's apartment, the submarine interior, Italy, Liberty Island, and the moon. The exterior of Stage 5 was part of the Metropolis Street set, and its interior contained the lobby of the Metropolis Tower. The enormous Stage 6, built for The Empire Strikes Back, contained Lex Luthor's penthouse and Lacey Warfield's hotel interior. The exterior of the stage was used to double for the exterior of Fort Mason. With a production base in place, the next step was to find relatively localised locations. Beyond the Metropolis Main Street set, there was still a huge amount of big American interior and exterior spaces. For example, how would it be possible to replicate the Daily Planet offices on a restricted budget? John Graysmark found his solution in the most unexpected of places, the British new town of Milton Keynes.
You've never been anywhere like it. Central Milton Keynes.
Founded in 1967 and built on farmland and undeveloped villages, Milton Keynes was intended to be the largest of the British new towns, which were built to cope with the lack of housing in London and a general population increase in post-war Britain. What's amusing to me is that when I think of Metropolis, I think of a vertical, bustling American city. I don't think of a small town in the middle of the English countryside. As a resident of the UK, it seems comically mundane compared to what one would expect from the home of a great American superhero. What was it exactly that enticed the filmmakers to shoot Superman 4 in Milton Keynes? With modernist architecture of concrete, steel and glass, and based on the un-English idea of a gridded road layout, the result by mid-1980s trends was a concentrated modern area, more in common with the look of a newly developed urban USA. It even had the first ever purpose-built multiplex cinema in the United Kingdom. Speaking to the Financial Times on November 13th, 1986, Graysmark said, "It was essential for the budget. Basically, it was the most contemporary architectural exercise within an hour's journey from Elstree. That was the brief, otherwise we'd have gone to Toronto." Graysmark found most of his locations within the premises of a newly constructed office block. I'm standing behind the Avery building, which was used for the interior of the Daily Planet. It was located on the 5th floor of the building. In the film, Christopher Reeve looks out of a window and you can see the office block over there. To the right of me is the Holiday Inn, which used to be called the Post House Hotel, where the cast and crew stayed during filming. On the other side is the Winter Gardens, where Lex Luthor finds a piece of Superman's hair and creates Nuclear Man. Now you may think this is a very cheap production decision, but in fact it's a very clever move by the production team to film here. As mentioned, the top of the Avery building is where the Daily Planet was recreated and was undergoing renovations during the filming of this video, making it unavailable to us. The foyer of the Avery building was dressed to look like the lobby and reception of the Metropolis Hyatt Hotel. Clark Kent comes out of these revolving doors, jumps in a limousine and transforms into Superman and jumps off this step. The adjacent Winter Gardens became the front of the Daily Planet, where Clark and Lacey said goodbye to each other in a deleted scene.
You're going to find a terrific man, Lacey.
The foyer behind stood in as the Daily Planet lobby.
You'd better have a good explanation, White, or else you'll be talking to your lawyers from jail.
But I've read enough in my own newspaper over the years.
At the top of these stairs is where the Metropolis Museum scene was filmed.
Superman, the subject of our newest exhibit, has graciously donated a strand of his hair to the museum, so we can all have the fun of seeing how strong he really is.
At the bottom of the garden is where Lex and Lenny hide.
The museum will be closing soon, so we should hurry a little.
However, we then see them both exiting to the main floor from above. Aha! The magic of the movies. A gym actually located at the bottom of the gardens doubled as the gym where Clark and Lacey go on a date. "15 minutes away from the Avery Boulevard, we find ourselves at Milton Keynes train station, where Superman swoops in to meet Jeremy and walks across the square to the UN. The Milton Keynes train station was also used at the end, where Superman flies down to meet the public to give his final speech. This site in the village of Baldock, Hertfordshire, is where the filmmakers recreated the Kent farm. The barn was constructed here.
Come, Miss Dorothy. Over here. Ah! There you are. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Nice to see you. It's been a long time.
A long time.
Opposite is where a facade of the Kent family home was erected. The site was also used for a deleted scene featuring a cameo from Reeves' own daughter, Alexandra, in which Superman battles a tornado created by Nuclear Man. On this stretch of the M25 motorway, newly built during the production of Superman 4, a scene was filmed in which Lex and Lenny Luthor bolt down an American freeway in a getaway vehicle. Unrecognisable and overgrown after 30 years, Springwell Quarry in Rickmansworth was home to the prison sequences with Lex Luthor. It appears near the beginning of the movie and makes a return near the end when Superman returns Lex to prison. A miniature of Lenny Luthor's car was launched into the quarry. But what's this in the grass? What appears to be polystyrene prop rocks that were used in the sequence. In London's Leicester Square, a deleted scene was filmed at the Hippodrome nightclub, which is now a casino, in which Clark and Lacey dance away at the Metro Club before the prototype version of Nuclear Man, played by Clive Mantle, attacks and Superman comes to the rescue. This scene is only available via photos, and no footage has been released, but the battle between Nuclear Man and the Man of Steel is available on the DVD and Blu-ray as a separate deleted scene. Elsewhere underneath London, Lois boards a subway train and Clark turns into Superman on the now abandoned Holborn Platform 5. Superman saves the runaway subway carriage at Aldwych Underground Station. Sadly, neither of these stations were available to us at the time of filming, but here is some recent video footage. Sadly, some of the UK locations used in Superman 4 have since been totally demolished, making them unsuitable for this video. The front and interior of the UN, as well as the American Senate, were filmed at the Wembley Conference Centre in London. A runway at RAF Radlett was used as Fort Mason. Didcot Power Station in Oxfordshire served as the exterior of the nuclear power station, where Nuclear Man is disposed of by Superman. Sir Frank Markham High School in Milton Keynes stood in for Jeremy's school. It is no secret that Superman 4 was made on a budget notably smaller than the previous Soul-Kind Superman films. The film and its visuals obviously had an inherent disadvantage against the imagery that had come before it. However, I don't think filming all the main unit in the UK at largely pre-existing locations was a bad thing.
As noted before, it wasn't even a new idea within the Superman film series.
Superman 3 had also used a fairly new built city, Calgary, in Alberta, Canada, making effective use of the stainless steel and glass buildings. The Websco headquarters, for example, was created using the exact techniques promised by Superman 4's approach. A studio set at Pinewood played the penthouse ski area, enhanced by visual effects to place it onto the Manhattan skyline, with the bottom photographed on the streets of Calgary. Did it look any more or less like 80s USA than the architecture of Milton Keynes? I don't think there was anything inherently wrong in using parts of Milton Keynes to double the feeling of a then contemporary USA. Although used extensively, most of the new town was used just for the interior work. The results are mostly very convincing, and a sense of illusion is maintained throughout the vast majority of the film.
This is some feat, considering the UK locations are wall-to-wall separated by the odd aerial unit shot taken in the USA.
Especially impressive was how the filmmakers accurately recreated the farm from the first Superman film, in detail, indistinguishably from the real thing.
Creative production design done well is resourceful, cost-efficient, and nobody knows the difference.
Could the UN sequences have been more expansive, perhaps? In his biography Still Me, Christopher Reeve reflected, "We had to shoot at an industrial park in England in the rain with about 100 extras, not a car in sight, and a dozen pigeons thrown in for atmosphere. Even if the story had been brilliant, I don't think we could have ever lived up to the audience's expectations with this approach." But did they really need to shoot at the real UN? In the late 50s, Alfred Hitchcock filmed the majority of the cross-country set thriller North by Northwest on the Hollywood sound stages. For a sequence involving the UN, he filmed the exteriors in New York, using a skeleton crew and what could have been a body double for Cary Grant. Interiors were created using studio sets enhanced by matte paintings. I wonder if the aerial unit of Superman 4 might have been able to take some creative steps on the streets of Manhattan, with the body double of Christopher Reeve and a crowd of people. If they really wanted that authenticity, they could have included matte paintings to increase the vertical scope of the Milton Keynes train station.
Generally, I feel what really hurt Superman 4 wasn't the locations themselves, but was more the way they were photographed.
For example, take the scene at the Hotel Doubledate. There is no dressing or background artists outside the Metropolis Hyatt Hotel, just an empty car park and some fields. Yet in the following aerial shot we see it's in the middle of Manhattan.
Would it have been so difficult to have the camera higher up, facing down to obscure the background?
Another example would be the Elstree-based Metropolis street set. The Superman 4 main street of Metropolis was really undone by the choice to see a levitating crowd of people hovering alongside a one-story high soundstage with a corrugated roof.
Again, couldn't the camera have been placed higher, looking lower, to obscure the roof from shot?
The corrugated roof even appears on the film's promotional lobby photos.
I appreciate that the film was quickly shot on a budget not comparable to the previous Superman films, but it's small details that sell the illusion on these movies.
The only piece of production design I genuinely feel makes the film suffer is the subway sequence. It's so sparingly dressed and characteristically the London Underground that you wonder why they didn't have London written into the film. Guerrilla-style wide shots with doubles of Lois and Clark in the New York subway might have been more convincing than using the London Underground. It just goes to show, even without a huge budget and lots of time, you can make a movie anywhere and make the audience believe it's anywhere you choose. But to do so successfully, all areas of the production need to be in sync. If one element such as the shot composition or framing gives away a clue to its real location, the tricks employed don't work, and sadly on a few occasions this does affect Superman 4. I was lucky to speak with a set decorator who worked on all of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies and Supergirl. Double Academy Award winner Peter Young. He won Oscars for Batman and Sleepy Hollow.
As a set decorator, how do you help the production designer make the UK look like the USA on a superhero film?
There's an awful lot of concepts. There's an awful lot of reference, and having worked, if you're talking at the moment about Superman 4, having worked on 1, 2 and 3, one knew the requirements and the genre of what was required, and one knew what existed, what would have to be imported from America and what had been imported from America previously for the other Superman films.
What, in your opinion, did production designer John Graysmark bring to Superman 4?
John Graysmark was very innovative in as much that, given the limitations, and John Graysmark is renowned for being economical, i.e., given the limitations of the budget, a lot of designers would have despaired and said it can't be done. John Graysmart came up with the idea that Milton Keynes was being built and existed, that let's go up there and have a look. And when we did, he said this can be done. And it's proved it could be done at very little cost. And he was totally responsible for that, and in a way, saving the film. The price of building those sets and building the locations could have been prohibitive.
How did the budget impact you, and what were your restrictions, especially compared to the previous Superman films?
The budget was considerably less than the previous films, and that in itself makes the restrictions. You can't have 20 cars, you can only have 10, or you can only have, you can't have a Daily Planet with so much bulk stock, and depending how long you're going to shoot it for, 1 week or 2 weeks, it restricts you totally. The budget on all films is paramount and is the most important thing, really. The director's requirements, the designer's requirements, the artist's requirements, and everybody else, but it's all governed by money.
Was there anything you couldn't do because of the budget?
Build the whole of Metropolis Street. Superman 4 was considerably a third of the size of the streets and the location sets that were built on the other 3 Supermans.
What was your favourite contribution to the film?
I think the mannequins in the museum, which should have been modelled like Madame Tussauds but we went to Madame Tussauds, to the modellers there, and the price was totally, to get them made, was totally prohibitive. So we went to Adele Rootstein, who makes shop window dummies, and one of our prop men sawed off the arms and put them in the shapes that we wanted, glued them all together and made them to look like human models, and I think they worked very well, actually, and they were considerably less expensive than Madame Tussauds would have been.
Some of the sets in Superman 4, such as the farm, were exact replicas of the sets from the original Superman, and yet others, such as the Daily Planet, were not. Why was this? I
worked on 1, 2, 3 and 4, so the elements were exactly the same. There were, on Superman 1 and 2, an awful lot of computers, telephones, lights, newspapers, a lot of, so they're called like this, smalls, were brought over from America, so it had a lot more texture and detail in it. But Superman 4, we had to plunder if were there any left from Superman 1 or Superman 2, and it wasn't as dense in texture or dressing, as it's called, but basically the elements were the same. But it was easier to do the Smallville farm because it was more sparse. It was only that house, a sort of outbuilding, a house, a car, some corn bales, and the windmill. It was very sparse, and it was intended that way even in the first Superman.
Did you see the released film, and given the amount of work you put into it, were you surprised how much of the film was cut?
That happens. It's always that way. The trouble, you're up all night doing that set and another set, and then suddenly it ends on the cutting room floor. One has, by the time I saw Superman 4, having seen 1, 2 and 3, hopefully one learns not to be too disappointed and accept, i.e. it's over, move on to the next film, which indeed the same thing will probably happen because that's the logistics of filmmaking.
And filmmakers now have access to a wide range of digital tools to extend and enhance location photography. However, even with these strides in technology, American superheroes still manage to make an appearance in seemingly unremarkable UK locations. If the idea of Superman in Milton Keynes seems amusing, what about the notion of Marvel's Avengers striding through Norwich, home to comedy's favourite radio presenter Alan Partridge? In 2014, the city's steel and glass Sainsbury's Centre doubled as the Avengers hideout in the UK-based production. This is the magic of the movies. In 2016, exactly 30 years after Superman 4 went into production, the Man of Steel has once more returned to the UK. Down the road from Elstree, at Warner Bros. Leasden Studios, shooting was underway on Justice League.
The Man of Steel had come home, this time mainly thanks to the tried and tested methods of green screen. I don't think we'll be seeing Milton Keynes anytime soon as the residence of Superman, but when it comes to feature films of the Man of Steel, the UK is very much his home, and I hope it continues to be.